Fantastic. Let's get started. So thanks for coming along, everyone. This is the Ask Me Anything about GitLab releases and deployment. I'm Amy Phillips, Engineering Manager for Delivery, and we have quite a lot of the delivery team online as well. So yeah, really looking forward to answering your questions today. Jackie, thank you so much for first question. Would you like to verbalize?
For sure. So recently we've delivered a deploy freeze functionality, and I noticed inside one of your repositories you have changelocks as a feature that you all are using. So I'm interested in starting a dialogue about helping improve deploy freezes for your all's use case.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're definitely, I mean, the short answer is yes, absolutely, we'll be prioritizing the change. Jav, do you want to actually, maybe you've got a better view of the specifics and where this fits in for us?
Yeah, sure. So what we have right now is I'll put a link to the project in the agenda. We have a project called Changelock that generates a CI image that includes a script that we run, and it allows you to specify pretty flexible changelocks. I remember when we were working on this feature, the flexibility we wanted were to use like a cron-like syntax and also use absolute dates. I don't know, I haven't caught up with the feature recently to see whether those two formats are supported. And then the other big need for us would be to have some way to override the changelog if it fails. And currently we do that with the CI variable. If all of those requirements could be met with the feature, then we could definitely change, like we could definitely deprecate this, but I'm not sure if they do.
Awesome. So I'll need a double check. I think that absolute dates is supported, but the second one of overriding, we have an open issue that we're looking at prioritizing the next couple of milestones. Of course, there's always, like you change your YAML file where this is specified and override it, but that's a little onerous. So having a more fit and finished way would probably be better for you all.
Yeah, cool. Sounds great.
Cool. Thanks so much. Does anybody else have a question they would like to ask?
What are some projects that you all are taking on in the next quarter that you're excited about?
That is a great question. So we have two key results that we're working towards this quarter. One of them is around removing some of the manual, or as many of the manual decision points as we can make in the deployment process. So at the moment, we are currently deploying to GitLab.com at least once a day. In recent weeks, we've been going beyond that, which is fantastic. But it very much relies on the release managers making sort of manual decision points and sort of pushing things through, which is not really the sort of longer term scalable solution that we want to go for. So there's a few pieces involved in that. At the moment, we have sort of two really big decision points. One is around, should we promote this particular build to production? And the other one is, when it is being promoted out to production, monitoring that and making sure that everything continues to look healthy and taking a human decision. If things start to look unhealthy, someone has to make a decision to either like halt deployment, investigate, or find some way to revert that. So we're working to automate those two via metrics so that we actually end up with a sort of scalable release pipeline that's able to decide build looks healthy, has the right metrics, has passed the right tests, gets gradually promoted through to production. And whilst it's going out, we actually also have a system monitoring the health of GitLab and making a decision of should we be pausing or rolling back on this deployment. So that's one big one. And that will all feed into MTTP, mean time to production, which is the sort of metric we're tracking within the team. And then the other key result we're working on is continuing our Kubernetes migration, working on unmodified Helm charts so that we can dog food things ahead of customers. And and we'll be working to migrate all the stateless services over this quarter.
That's great that we're that's a goal, and I saw that in the OKRs. There was some kind of a weird dependency where even like the API service depended on NFS. How is that going, getting rid of that dependency so we can go full steam ahead with migrating those to the Helm charts?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely really appreciate everyone's efforts to remove these blockers as we come across them. We are progressing well at the moment, but yeah, there's definitely lots of work to do to actually migrate these things and get them like safely running and deployed. So
cool. What's the next service that you're looking forward to migrating to the Helm chart?
Jeff,
I can speak to that since I'm working on it. The next service that we're migrating are WebSockets, which is used for the interactive terminal for when you connect to a Kubernetes cluster. It's not a very it's not used a lot, but we have a little bit of WebSockets traffic for that, and also Git HTTPS. So those two, Git HTTPS being has a lot more traffic than WebSockets. Those, we obviously picked something that doesn't have any NFS dependencies. It's the first front-end service that we're migrating other than registry. So it's kind of exciting to see how this is working in Kubernetes. It's already in staging, and we're planning to move it to Canary very soon. We're working on a couple blocking issues, but nothing that is going to take a long time to fix.
Cool. Thanks for that. I'm curious, what are the blocking issues? What are stuff you're running into? And I'm going to listen like, hey, this is also applied to our customers that are using the Helm chart. Are we like improving things for our users by dogfooding the Helm chart?
Sure, yeah. So probably the remaining blocking issue that we have is that logging is a little bit different in cloud native than it is when you're running on VMs. When you're running on virtual machines, the application is logged into a bunch of different log files, Rails is, and then we have fluentd, which is which is pointed at these different logs, and it has a bunch of rules. For cloud native, all of the logs go to standard out. So you have a bunch of logs coming from different log files that are all interspersed together. Currently, we don't have a way to turn off the unstructured logs completely. We have the option in Rails to do either or both. Like you can turn on JSON logging, or you have both like JSON logs and unstructured logs. And what we need to do is turn off the unstructured logs. So we're making a change in the application to turn those logs off, so that we don't get overwhelmed with logs to our Elasticsearch cluster. That's really the last remaining thing that we have for Git HTTPS. So we're kind of like near the end. So I would expect this to be resolved very soon, and we'll be like running in production, I expect, the next week or two.
Cool, thanks.
Cool, thanks for the questions so far. Has anyone else got anything they would like to ask about anything to do with our releases or deployments or things coming up?
I know I ask this regularly, but is there anything that you need my team to prioritize in the next 2 weeks? I ask because we're closing in on the release date for this cycle, and we need to prep for the first week of anything that's big. So is there anything you can call out for distribution to work on?
Scarbeck, does this one maybe fit? We've got a few things I think ready for review, but I'm not aware there's any huge blockers we need to be prioritized, unless either of you disagree.
I think the one thing I could think of off the top of my head is the situation where we currently split our front end fleets. You know, we got the Git service, the API, and the web services. Currently, I don't believe our Helm chart currently supports this. I believe you already have an issue where you guys are working on that currently, though. I can't recall off the top of my head, though.
Yep, and that is exactly the one I'm talking about. So, precisely. There's 2 open items that we are aware of, and we are prioritizing into 13.4, which are the service maps, so the ability to have different groups of the web fleets, and the refactoring of logging. We have a community item that has a methodology to actually wrap all of the logs into structured JSON. The downside of that is we're still producing a ton of logs as an application that are not structured in any way. So that ties back to what was discussed earlier about turning off non-structured where possible and convincing people that we need to maybe stop generating 17 logs in a single Ruby process.
Excellent. Thanks, Hugh, for asking. Is there any other questions?
Maybe a bit further out, but when do you think we'll just do like a deploy on every merge into our main branch? Like anytime something is merged, as long as we haven't turned deploys off, it just gets released, and it doesn't need a human to look at the stats, but we'll roll it back automatically if the metrics are off.
Yeah, it's definitely the dream. I think for certain types of deployment, so the sort of daily auto deploys, we're not too far away from that. So we're hoping to have at least the sort of key pieces in place in the next few months. They'll be deploying within a window, so we still want to make sure that we have the right people around to sort of oversee things. And if we did roll back, we would put things back into a place where it was like, okay, we've got GitLab.com healthy again, we're putting things back, and somebody needs to come along and make a decision and make things better. So we won't be sort of fully continuous deploying everything, but we'll certainly within the next few months certainly be in a stage where the release bot will be able to make a decision and push out to production without human intervention. In terms of the really big things, I think probably we'll probably uncover some stuff, and I think we have some interesting windows around sort of patch releases and the monthly releases and things like that. So we'll probably look to be easing some of those. Recently, we've been working to run auto deploys alongside the monthly security releases, which has been a huge change for us, and really sort of unblocks these daily auto deploys. So lots of that sort of work is going alongside, which is also going to feed into this as well.
Cool, thanks for that. And another question, an assumption of mine is that when we move to Helm charts, it's going to be quicker to kind of make a small fix in GitLab because we don't have to need a new omnibus package. Is that the case? If we move to Helm charts all across, everything is on Kubernetes, we no longer need our hot patch process? Or maybe that's still the case because the hot patch process is super fast and this still takes time. See Jason wiggling in his chair, whether this is true or not. I wonder what people think.
I want to let delivery answer first.
Sure, I'll start with, oh, sorry.
Go for it, Jeff. Yeah, good.
I'll start with this. Yeah, so we see a huge improvement in deployment times using cloud native. The reasons for this is that we're not dealing with the 900 megabyte omnibus package and bringing it down over the network and installing it and blowing it out on disk. This is just, we're dealing with a much leaner image, and we also don't have to deal with rolling through a static set of virtual machines, draining them from HA proxy. It's just like a very slow process. We just let Kubernetes do all the work. So we're seeing like a very large improvement, more than like three or four times improvement in deploy times, which is fantastic. Whether or not I mean, so for this reason alone, we'll be quicker to deploy to production. We still have to build images, of course, instead of the Omnibus package, which right now we're doing both. Images build faster than the Omnibus package, I think, so that's a bit of a savings there. So I think it looks good. Whether or not we're going to not have any Omnibus package for GitLab.com, I think remains to be seen. Like maybe we'll still run the Omnibus for the sake of dog fooding Omnibus on a very small subset of our front end. That could be a decision
Oh,
we make.
that'd be super cool if we could do that. Like run it as a percentage of traffic. That would alleviate a lot of concerns I have by moving completely to Helm.
Yeah, and I think there'll still be a lot of savings even if we do that. Like if we only have a few virtual machines, I mean, the time to deploy to those will be done in parallel, and Kubernetes, will still save us a bunch of time. So that's a possibility, but we haven't decided yet. I'll pass it to Jason if he has anything to add.
One of the largest advantages is, as you pointed out, as you make a small change to a given component, when this change happens, if there's no other component changes, we only have to rebuild necessarily the one container. And when you deploy that new version, effectively, you only have to restart that portion of the fleet that actually needs to be restarted. Those containers and anything related to that in the event that some configuration item changed otherwise. So that bonus is still there. We do have to be aware that the containers are pre-tested throughout the pipelines. So it should go through all the way, but we have to still include a full integration test prior to actually having that deployment out to some of the later parts of production and staging. That's being refined still, but it is significantly in place.
Cool, thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for the questions. Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for everyone who had questions. And also thanks to Tim and Jackie for adding in some awesome notes as we've been talking. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully this has been interesting, and we'll see you next month. So thanks everyone. Take care.